Hello, I'm Grimgrindle and welcome to this build request. This request comes from the official Twinklefart. That's right folks, it's not just any old Twinklefart, but the official one, who has asked me to have a crack at building the MMPR Zords. And with the new Mighty Morphin Power Rangers movie coming out this Thursday, I figured what better time to give it a crack. As it is in fact the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, I'm going to be building the Dinozords from the original series, not any of the Zords from the subsequent series, nor the Ninjetti Zords from the Power Rangers movie. Also, as there are 5 Rangers in the original lineup, that means that there are 5 Zords, and that means there are 5 vehicles to build, so it should be noted that in the time I would usually allocate to build 1 vehicle for a build request, I was in fact building 5 instead of 1, so all of them are a little bit rushed. They're all passable, but they're all definitely a little bit derpy, and they could all definitely use some improvements. So I suppose imagine this is the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Zords if Zorodon had a bit of a drinking problem. So firstly, let's get started with the Yellow Ranger's Saber-Tooth Tiger Zord. This Zord, as well as the Black Ranger's Mastodon, are probably the best looking out of the ones I've made. Which is perhaps ironic because I'm fairly certain that neither a Mastodon nor a Saber-Tooth Tiger are in fact actually considered dinosaurs. But let's not waste time with frivolous irrelevancies. As you can see, while building the Saber-Tooth Tiger Zord, I was putting in a fair effort to make it so you could actually move the legs. Making a 4-legged walker is something that's extraordinarily challenging, and I've not actually succeeded in doing it to a satisfactory level, much as I tried while trying to build a Scarab and an AT-AT, and further, while time restraints were as they were while creating this vehicle, I was fairly certain that this was definitely not the time I would be able to crack that egg open. But I did enter into building the Saber-Tooth Tiger Zord with the want for the legs to actually move while flying in the air, as they do while initiating the Megazord sequence. I did this by having the front legs be able to move individually, but the back legs actually be connected together at the top and branch off towards the end, giving the appearance of 2 separate legs. To be honest, the only reason I did this is because I had a toy of the Yellow Zord at one point with moving parts that worked in that way, and I was vaguely nostalgic. The end result looks pretty okay. There are definitely some areas that can use some improvements, for instance the back legs which get sort of stuck in a downwards position. I think this could easily be fixed by tweaking the weight distribution and moving the small jet down, and possibly by using a gyroscope, but I wasn't able to quickly fix it and it's going to use a lot of annoying tinkering, so this is the final build of it for me, or at least for me in this video. So with the first Zord done and out of the way, let's move straight on to the Blue Ranger's Triceratops Zord, which probably in all honesty turned out the worst out of all of them. Sorry Billy. Of course though, the Triceratops Zord also is probably the worst looking of all the Zords in reality, so I really didn't have much to work with. But the main problems while trying to replicate it is that the Triceratops Zord's neck frill, which is not as cool a name as Lizard Mane would have been, is rather difficult to replicate with the parts available to you in the game. What it ended up looking like was pretty darn derpy, and while I'm sure it could be improved with a lot more work, what I managed to achieve wasn't exactly fantastic. The rest of the Zord doesn't look too bad though, and I invested more time in trying to get the tail right than I did the head. Utilizing a small engine, small propeller, small ammo, small fuel, gyroscope and 2 egg guns, I was able to get the tail to move up and down independently of the vehicle and shoot like it does in the show, and if you've been subscribed to this channel for a while, you know I'm a big fan of functionality, so I'll take the small victories where I can get them. But now let's move rather swiftly over to the Pink Ranger's Pterodactyl Zord before you can get too good a look at exactly how bad the Blue Ranger's Zord really turned out. When I was a youngling, it always kind of annoyed me that the Pink Ranger's Pterodactyl Zord doesn't actually really resemble a pterodactyl at all, but instead really just looks like a very stylized fighter jet. That annoyance was far less, however, while building this replica, because I would assume building a pterodactyl would be rather difficult, but building a vehicle that resembles something that resembles a stylized fighter jet is far easier. Anyone who's ever tried to build organic shapes in Banjo-Kazooie or Minecraft or any block-based build system can tell you that building organic shapes is far more difficult than anything else. I think I was able to get the Pink Ranger's Zord relatively close. There's definitely some areas that could be improved, and the bottom of the ship, which becomes the chest of the Megazord, doesn't look right at all, but luckily you don't see that much when it's in the Pink Ranger's Zord form, and these Zords don't actually need to transform into the Megazord. Unfortunately, that's pretty much impossible considering the part limits and whatnot. So as far as it goes as the Pink Zord as a standalone, it definitely looks passable, and well, the colour scheme goes a long way to help with that. There's no hidden features and functionalities in this vehicle, and the only tricky trick I used to make it is that I wanted it to be wider than is possible in the game, and so I utilised the long vehicle exploit in order to make the wingspan larger. And now on to the Black Ranger's Mastodon, which, as I said, probably turned out looking best out of all of the Zords. It doesn't really have any special functionality, and I just hit wheels on the feet because the way it moves in the show is the feet kind of bounce up and down in a weird way, and that's how it moves forward, which, even if I could have achieved in the game, wouldn't have actually made it mobile. So I just decided to avoid that entire mess altogether and instead put wheels on the feet. And on the front of it I put a refrigerator as a weapon because, as far as I remember in the show, it has some kind of attack that's like Arctic breath or something, and well, this is the closest you can get to that. It's a fairly simple vehicle, it just turned out that the design of it in the show lent itself rather well to Banjo-Kazooie nuts and bolts, and I'm rather fond of how the end result turned out. And now for the one that most of you are probably waiting for, the Red Ranger Tyrannosaurus Rex Zord, or as I like to call it, Derpazord. I went into building the Red Ranger Zord with two main requirements. Firstly, it has to at least resemble the Red Ranger's Tyrannosaurus Rex Zord, even if only a little bit, and secondly, it has to be able to walk, even if not that well. That second requirement is because building a mech that actually functions fantastically takes a lot more time than I was allocating myself in this video, and secondly because the Tyrannosaurus Rex Zord never exactly walked that well in the show, especially when it was a model. Whenever it was a guy in a suit, it did a slightly better job of course, but whenever it was the model, it kind of just awkwardly shuffled. It took a fair bit of trial and error to really adjust the legs to move the way I wanted to, and I ended up having to put a jetpack on the back of it because I was encountering the same issue that I did when building the Grizzly, namely that because it had a propeller on it, it kept on putting it on the helipad, which is not exactly the best place to be when you're trying to test its walking ability. Because of the really weird weight distribution that really doesn't lend itself well to building mechs in Banjo-Kazooie nuts and bolts, and because the physics in the game aren't exactly built for mechs either, sometimes the vehicle will have a bit of a weird freakout and swing its tail around really fast. I was originally going to try to fix this, but then I remembered that that was actually an attack that the Tyrannosaurus Rex Zord did sometimes do in Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, so I'm just going to pretend it was a feature. The overall look of the vehicle, perhaps more than any of the other Zords I've shown off today, could definitely be improved greatly by just being shown a little bit more love. Especially the head of the vehicle that looks like utter garbage. And while I'll probably revisit it at some point and polish it up a little bit more, as I often do when it takes my fancy, I'll leave improving it for now up to you guys if you want to copy the vehicle into your own save for the layer by layer that will be coming up for each of these Zords after I finish talking. Oh, and if you happen to decide to repaint it green, it becomes just a regular T-Rex, which means I've killed two birds with one stone, and this is also fulfilling Dr. Big Boy's request for a T-Rex. And if you want to see the grim builds of this vehicle, it'll be going up tomorrow as always, and I hope you don't have much planned for your Thursday, because I think it's about an hour long. So with all of that said and done, as always, thanks for watching, and until next time, I have been and still am Grim Grindle.
Oh, come. Oh, come. Oh. Amco. Oh, come go. Oh, come, ah, come. Oh, come, go.